The Democratic Alliance's losses in Wednesday's by-elections have been gains for smaller parties. The party lost 9 wards, gained 2 more and retained 14. The ANC held on to 64 wards and there was no change for the economic freedom fighters. Newzroom Afrika's Malungelo Boy reports.
Around 95 wards were contested by over 400 candidates nationwide. The ANC kept 64 of its wards, winning 2 new wards and lost 1 ward. The DA won 2 new wards, lost 9 wards, but retained 14. The Good Party, Patriotic Alliance, Al-Jamal and the Freedom Front Plus all won 1 new ward in these historic elections. The Independent Electoral Commission says voting was relatively smooth.
The Electoral Commission is pleased with the holding of by-elections across 55 municipalities in all 9 provinces yesterday, which were overwhelmingly calm, peaceful and successful. These elections were extraordinary in that they were the first to be held in South Africa under COVID-19 conditions and were the largest number of by-elections held on a single day in our history. The Commission is also encouraged by the turnout of voters.
There were over 600,000 people who registered to cast their ballots.
Percentage of participation of 37.83%. Firstly, to talk about it as good or bad. From the Commission's point of view, our hope always is to have not only 100% participation of registered voters, but in fact to have 100% of eligible people who are willing and able to vote to be actually voting. At the same time, we believe that this is something that is at the heart of a collective endeavour of our nation to ensure that participation is always increased.
The IEC confirmed there were spoilt votes.
Spoiled ballots, but nothing outside of the ordinary. They accord with past performance, so there is no outlier in this by-election in respect of spoiled ballots. We can give you the precise figures.
The electoral body says it was very encouraged that in Ward 4 in Port St. John's municipality was able to record over 75% of voter turnout. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Malungelo Boy in Centurion.
Well, to help us look at some of these results, we're joined by the ANC's Head of Elections, Fikile Mbalula. Good evening, and thank you so much for your time tonight, Mr. Mbalula. Firstly, just your reflections on the by-elections. The statement you've issued sounds quite optimistic about what your fortunes might be in 2021. Mr. Mbalula, I'm going to ask you to please unmute yourself.
Yeah,
there we go.
We are optimistic, but not complacent by this overwhelming victory. To us, this was a test drive for what is yet to come. We've made good strides. Our members, our leaders have gone out, and we know what that victory accounts to. Changing the lives of the people for the better and accelerating on service delivery. And that is where the secret is, because we're a governing party. We don't talk about others, they talk about us. Of course, we don't cry foul about that, because we do deserve people to look at us, and we look at ourselves in the mirror. And indeed, mistakes get to be committed by some of our public representatives. We have introduced in government a big drive of a service delivery model, district model, bringing service delivery on the doorstep, and that is going to take us somewhere. And Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, in terms of local government, is beginning to shake things, and we are fighting corruption very hard. The response of state organs to eradicate corruption, where it manifests itself at local government, is encouraging. We are getting there, we're moving, and through to our manifesto that we veered away and we've heard our people, and we make strides and working hard and hard and hard every day for our people.
Of course, a voter turnout of 37.5% is hardly anything to celebrate.
By-elections in their very nature are not elections that register high voter turnout. It is quite reasonable. The turnout is reflective of where the society is in terms of the level of politics and in terms of their interest and all of that. And they did come out. Remember, this is no day for set aside for an election day. People are getting to work, going on with their business. So it's generally an interruption in their own life. It's not like an election day which is set aside just for voting. So we are quite good. We're quite good in terms of the work we have done and people taking time out of their way to go and vote.
When you talk about, the fact that this in many ways may be a signal, a yardstick to be more precise, is the word you've used in your statement, to gauge what might happen next year, and the approach of renewal that you say the ANC is going through, what then does an event like tomorrow do for your prospects in future? We have the Secretary General of the ANC that's going to be before a court of law, or in all likelihood facing charges linked to fraud and corruption. What does that do for somebody like yourself, who's the head of elections and must now help the party plan around how exactly it's going to sell itself effectively to the South African electorate?
Well, tomorrow the ANC will not be in court and is not accused. Our Secretary General is in court and we support him to say to our people, nobody is above the law. The laws of jurisprudence of our country are in action. Those who will be going there to support the Secretary General must do it quite with discipline, and the ANC is not there. And in this particular regard, the law must take its course, and we must observe the jurisprudence of our country. To an extent that the ANC will be affected by what will happen tomorrow, it will have mean that the ANC itself is in court. So the ANC is not in court. And in this particular regard, those leaders of the ANC and individuals who go to court to support the SG as their friend and all of that is absolutely within their right.
Mr. Mbalula, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. And I think that you're perhaps oversimplifying the issue. The Secretary General of the organization, who runs the administrative issues of the ANC, is going to be in court tomorrow. There's no way that his appearance would not be linked to the ANC.
The ANC has fought in this country, Cathy, for the right of individuals, which the SG is of no exception and are guaranteed in the Constitution. The ANC have fought to ensure that the rule of law and the rule of law prevails. Now, there is no law for ANC members and the law for the rest of society. The ANC is not on trial. The SG will appear in court and use whatever means at his disposal to actually defend himself and prove his innocence. And we must give that process a chance. Of course, it's the SG of the ANC. I'm not being simplistic, it's the reality to say that there will be members of the ANC who will go out to support the SG. And in this regard, it must be clear that it does not mean that our movement in itself is in court. So that is what I'm trying to explain to you. And this is the rule of law in action.
How does this, again, affect the kind of work that you, as the head of elections of the ANC, have in terms of how you posture the party going into next year's local government elections? You've attributed your success this year to having conducted a people-led and centered approach. And so how would you frame then this going into the next year? And you talk about about the fight against corruption when one of your senior members is facing corruption and seemingly the party is unable to implement its own resolutions when it comes to what should happen to members, especially senior members who are facing cases in court?
The Secretary General has not even entered court. And then you are saying the party is failing to act and pronounce. And my leader spoke to you yesterday. And I wish to quote and repeat what they said. They said the national leadership of the movement is seized with this matter. And that is the case. And in this particular regard, the ANC is not in court. Should any member of the ANC appear in court, that is part and parcel of the rule of law. And those individuals of the ANC will answer for what they are actually accused about. And the ANC does not cease to exist. How the ANC relate to that situation is important. If the ANC itself takes itself into a court case that it does not belong to, then that will affect the ANC. But these members do not cease to exist as individuals who are ANC leaders in their own name and right and actually accused. And it does not mean that by being accused you are actually guilty. All what it means is that you appear before the court to answer to the accusations that you are accused of. And society and yourself as the media have led the charge that the law must prevail. And cases wherever individuals have been accused must be brought forward if there is enough justice. Let us leave that process to the law enforcement and to the jurisprudence and not seek to circumvent and interrupt that process by one way or the other, seek to influence it otherwise. Because by so doing, we are undermining the rule of law. Now that we know our SG will appear before court, leave that to the justice system. And that is what the ANC says.
Mr. Mbalula, many of those who would have voted for you in these wards that you have been able to retain would have some level of hope in the ANC being able to influence their daily circumstances and perhaps turn the tide of poor service delivery, especially at a local government level. How is that going to change? And I say this also just drawing in the reflections of those who've been paying tribute to somebody like the late Kimi Makwetu, and the fact that in his findings as Auditor General, he continuously made, negative findings against the type of administrations that people were running, but ultimately, those who have been speaking about his legacy say he was let down by the leaders of this country who did not implement the recommendations that he made about how to turn that situation around at a ground level for those who today would have entrusted you with their vote.
You are correct that we have had these negative outcomes in terms of audit of our municipalities. And we ourselves have supported government in categorizing those municipalities that are doing well and those that are facing challenges. And also we have endorsed government turnaround strategy for those municipalities. And the significant, most important thing that this government, in its early days in the sixth administration, it has done, you must observe, is the district model that we are implementing at the level of government. What does that model do? That model seeks to change the status quo in relation to the audit outcomes and do away with incompetence in relation to public office and the officials and bring stability into government. And what does it do? Again, it is to bring service closer to the people by seeking to do away with the red tape and bringing national government close to local government to cooperate for service delivery to our people. And in most municipalities, it is now even less than a year, but in a year's time to come, you will see the significant impact of the district model. I've been to many districts that are actually affected. Just last week, I was deep in the rural Eastern Cape, where there have never been roads tarred in the deep rural, are now being tarred as a result of the district model. And we are addressing some of the bottlenecks, including matters of water. where we know that our country is suffering from scarcity of water, and some of the challenges were faced in relation to bigger projects not being implemented, we are unlocking those particular bottlenecks. So strides have been made, but not yet celebrated. But it is only the vote of the people that will speak about these achievements. And we're encouraged about these interventions we're making, and we will never hide difficulties and say that it is hunky-dory, hallelujah, everything is good with regard to the audit outcomes. May Kimima Kwetu rest in peace, the servant of our people. He did highlight these issues, and we are addressing them, and vigorously so.
Fikile Mbalula is the ANC's head of elections. Thanks for your time on News at Prime tonight.